Prime Minister Modi's visit in USA. So much really to take us through that. And let's go back to those visuals that have just come to us from Washington, D.C. In the first set of meetings that the Prime Minister is holding, global CEOs is the focus. We are told that this is the President CEO of Qualcomm that the Prime Minister is interacting with. In fact, there is a whole bunch of CEOs that he will be meeting this evening, and then going on to further diplomatic chats, which will begin with individual countries, Australia and Japan being one of them as well. This is, of course, before the Prime Minister will meet with Joe Biden, with Kamala Harris, and there is a UN General Assembly address there as well. Let me go to Kadambini now to get more details on what exactly is unfolding. Kadambini, so the Prime Minister reached there. He saw a very warm welcome. The entire Indian diaspora being present there despite the drizzle. We saw some very busy Prime Minister pictures that came on board also, that he was busy with all his files over there. Much is to be achieved in this meeting and this trip that the Prime Minister is making to US. Just take us through what exactly is on India's mind right now. What is the key focus that we want to achieve?
Well, Sonal, this is the first meeting of the day, the visuals of which we have seen just now, and we are told that he is the Qualcomm CEO Cristiano E Amon, and there are more Adobe CEO, First Solar, General Atomics, Blackstone, and these are some names which are coming, and as the visuals come in, we'll know more about that. But this is something which has been fitted in his very packed schedule, that he is meeting all these CEOs today, the meetings of whom were fixed, and this is a kind of effort to get more investments for India, to tell the world that India is open for business now after this really bad period of corona pandemic, and the ease of doing business would be extended to these CEOs. So this is one of the first engagements, and today there are other engagements as well. He'll be meeting Scott Morrison, Australian PM. He'll also be meeting Vice President Kamala Harris of United States of America, and the departure statement which he had given, he said clearly that he'll be talking to her about science and technology and about vaccines. So there seems to be a kind of division. The priorities of both the meetings, be it with Joe Biden or with Kamala Harris. So more issues, like our sources are telling us, like the situation coming on from Afghanistan and terror, will be with Joe Biden, but vaccines and others will also be with Kamala Harris.
Right. And Kadambini, talking about vaccines, I just want to draw everybody's attention to one of the tweets that came in from the Prime Minister once he got there. Of course, vaccine racism is something that we've been talking about for a while. And if you look at how India has dealt with the issue of Covishield not getting recognition, you still have to undergo RT-PCR testing, you still have to quarantine. This is UK, of course, that we are talking about. US has just changed the norms a couple of days ago. But look at the escalation of talks as they're happening. They were first happening in media briefings, then in diplomatic levels with Jaishankar, now Prime Minister also tweeting about it. So clearly the escalation is quite high, and India not really looking at this very kindly. Reciprocal impact also being talked about, and something of huge interest to Indians as well, all of us. In fact, wondering why exactly is the company the same formula, the same company, but then we are still to quarantine, we are still to get our tests done if we are to travel abroad.
See, Sonal, there is no reason for India to back off on this issue, because this is a company which has been licensed and it is licensed by a UK company. The product is being used all over the world. Even UK had officially asked for 5 million doses to be used in their health system. So India has no reason to back off on this. India has been supplying to half the world. India has said vaccine Maitri will go on, and India will be giving more vaccines.
We've renewed COVAX.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there is no reason to back off. And if you remember, it happened with EU as well, and the medicine agency there said that they will not be accepting the certificates, but most of the EU countries said that it is okay for them. So they have changed their rules. And why should UK be doing this? First they said Covishield is not accepted, then they came to the certification. Now we are seeing, after all this escalation, in India saying that we will take reciprocal measures if it continues. So now we are seeing that there is some climb down on UK thing, and they are saying that talks are going on very well, and the technical issues seem to be it will be resolved soon enough. So India has no reason to back off, and India is doing just exactly that.
Doing just that. In fact, on that note, let me put out those graphics which talks about the Prime Minister's itinerary. If we can have that up on the screen as well, for us to see how day one of Prime Minister's visit is actually looking like. He starts like with the visuals that we are showing you right now of his individual meeting, one-on-one meeting with the global CEOs. Followed by that is going to be a bilateral meeting with the Australian Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. Then post that there will be on 24th, in fact, the next day is the bilateral meeting with Kamala Harris, the Vice President, and that then with the Japan Prime Minister as well. So, Kadamini, we're looking at these visuals, global CEOs, we talked about that, more and more names and details now trickling in as we speak and look at those visuals. Take us through what exactly is expected out of this bilateral with Australia.
Well, Australia bilateral is important in the sense both Australia and Japan, because they're also a partner in Quad, and before the Quad meeting, you will see both these bilaterals will take place. So Australia, we know that there is great people-to-people rapport, and we have different kinds of trade and other issues there. But with Quad, with the 4 countries coming together for Quad, every country is putting forward what they want out of Quad and how each country is going to do that. So before the Quad, both these countries and India will have separate bilaterals, and after that, only after that, they will go and talk at Quad. So the situation will be quite clear what country is able to deliver what to other countries and where they can cooperate. So India also expects Australia and Japan and US to help or stand by it in the regional issues like China's incursion in LAC. Australia has seen the same kind of thing. So there is a cooperation, and first, the most important part in this is this is one multilateral forum, Sonal, about which initially the countries were not sure. If you remember, Japan and India never even mentioned Quad in their official statements.
Right.
Australia did not want to be really part of it. India did not want to be really part of it. But what has brought together is actually the situation which China has created. No one says that openly. We talk about open Indo-Pacific, but at the moment, without being said, China is at the center of it, and it cannot be denied, even though it is not being said openly by any of the countries.
Right.
Sonal.
But what is being said openly, Kadamini, is perhaps the issue in Afghanistan, and that seems to be getting more and more focus. I mean, look at what happened with SARC just yesterday, getting cancelled because of very open stand that Pakistan took, seriously getting exposed in front of the world on where they stand when it comes to extremism, etc. So how do you think all of that dynamics is going to play out in the conversations now that the Prime Minister is going to hold?
I would like to tell you that EM reached US some days before the PM, and all the meetings, the visuals of which have been coming, and the tweets and the statements which have been coming, if you see, there is one common thread, and that is Afghanistan. With any country, even today when EM tweeted with the meeting about with German FM, he talked about Afghanistan. There is a meeting at the moment which is taking place right now in New York. It is about Afghanistan. So Afghanistan is at the top of the mind of all democratic countries, but India, being in so close neighborhood, India which has suffered at the hands of terrorism, India which knows that Pakistan is backing Taliban, India knows what will be the fallout, India knows that there will be sheltering of terrorists in Afghanistan if Pakistan has its way. So India has most to worry, and that is what India is telling on multilateral forums and the like-minded allies. So it is kind of creation of a pressure group, if you may call that, and that is exactly what is happening. US also knows what the situation is. It has pulled out after 20 years, and it is being seen as a defeat. So everyone knows what the situation is, but India may be at the receiving end, and India is just trying to create a group of nations and a situation where everyone understands where India stands and what is there to lose, and how to put pressure in Afghanistan on Pakistan so that the worst fears actually shouldn't come true. And that is true for EM who is having meetings. It is true for PM who will be talking about Afghanistan in Quad meeting, I'm sure, and also our sources tell us in one-to-one with Joe Biden.
With Joe Biden as well. So China not so talked about, but the dynamics will be looked at. Pakistan and Afghanistan in that context very proactively will be taken up. Remember, India had actually chaired that meeting which in UN when the entire changeover of power in Afghanistan happened, and there were a lot of back and forth in those comments there as well. I want to, on a lighter note, come to the meeting of Prime Minister with Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris has huge resounding support in India India. People are obsessed with the fact that she's got Indian roots, her Masi being here, and Prime Minister taking out time to meet with her as well. Do we have any details on what is likely to come up in that meeting, Kadamni?
Well, before the departure, PM had given a statement and he had said he would be meeting Kamala Harris for the first time, and of course her Indian origins are well known, and we have seen her flaunting that too as well, whether be it in her kitchen or outside it, she has talked about it. So PM will be meeting her for the first time, but of course the meeting would also be on serious matters. You remember Kamala Harris had a telephonic conversation with the PM and she had talked about vaccines, and PM has said that he'll be talking to her about science and technology and other such issues. So we expect some corona issues and vaccine issues to come up in the talks between the two, which will happen in India time around 12:45 at night. Sonal.
All right, so late night updates is expected as Prime Minister meets with Kamala Harris over there. So we talked about Afghanistan, we talked about Pakistan, China, we talked about Kamala Harris, we talked about the meeting with the Prime Minister of Australia. What about Japan? What's the focus there?
Well, Japan is an interesting part here, Sonal, because what happened was Quad, till the last moment, we were not sure whether Quad would be happening or not, because Japan, PM Suga has decided to step down. He'll not be contesting for his post once again. So there would be another PM who would be taking over, and that was what we were being told is something which was delaying Quad. But of course he came there, and he will also be having a one-to-one with the PM and his other counterparts, be it Joe Biden or Scott Morrison. So that is also there. Important part here is we have seen in the recent times with the previous PM of Japan how PM Modi was quite close, and we had seen about this sister cities concept also come up, Kyoto and I think one city here. So it is kind of a close cooperation with Japan now, and Japan is also one of those countries who's actually quite upset with China in South China Sea, and the issue of one of their islands which China claims has been festering for a long time. Trade issues is also there. If I remember right, there was a time when Japan had said that the people, the industries which would shift from China, their factories, they would be given some kind of subsidy. So this has now, this pandemic and what has happened after that has blown everything open. Now it is very clear who's standing where, and China has been criticizing, but the countries now think there is a need for them to come together in such a world where they can counter this kind of force together and obviously bring out a rule-based Indo-Pacific or the trade or other democratic institutions.
Right. Kadamni, I want to talk about the bit that, you know, Prime Minister Modi meeting Joe Biden. How do you think that's going to work out? Prime Minister who's been this very strong sort of supporter, if one can call it that, not a very diplomatic word to use, of the previous president of United States. He ab ki baar Trump Sarkar was a slogan that he himself went there and lobbied for him. Many called it, again, not a very diplomatic word to use, but one could see that happen very openly. Do you think there would be any love lost between Joe Biden and Prime Minister when it comes to this, or do you think both these diplomatic chairs are going to get past that and they have a bigger task at hand, which is basically to handle this, you know, the Afghanistan situation, China, Pakistan, and vaccines above all?
Well, that was really not very diplomatic thing to say when that happened, and that had been pointed out. But when you look at the relationship of India and the US, it has been developing through the years. It has been on a rise through the years, and we had also seen that PM Modi seemed to be quite close to President Obama, the ex-President Obama. But when two countries who have so much at stake and who have been such close partners over the years, this slight hiccup shouldn't matter, because there are much bigger issues on the table, be it China, be it Afghanistan, be it Pakistan. Climate change is a very dear issue to the Biden administration. They have been talking about it continuously. Corona has also created a havoc as far as economic situation of different countries are concerned, and it shouldn't happen. That is the basic reason why we saw a first summit, COVID summit yesterday, which Joe Biden hosted alongside UNGA. So these are the bigger issues which are on table now, and I think both the countries will really get past what had happened in the past.
Okay, so Joe Biden not to hold that against the Prime Minister at all. So, but really interesting to see nonetheless what happens in that meeting. I want to focus next on vaccines. Now, in the latest statement, the one that's playing out right now also of Joe Biden that he addressed, he talked about how vaccines, America is now ready to give in another, I don't remember the exact number, running in several billions vaccines that will go down to lower income and middle income countries, and they're ready to contribute and do their bit as well. This is coming at a time when US, after saying that they will give a third shot, a booster dose to everybody, but now saying that it will go only to a group of people, that is elderly, those who are more exposed, and those who have underlying disorders. So how do you think this vaccine conversation is going to go between US and India? US, which has enough vaccines right now to vaccinate not just themselves and give a booster dose to their citizens, but give it to the rest of the world as well. India at this moment saying that they have commitment for COVAX, so they're restarting that, but much of our population still remains unvaccinated.
Well, Sunal, this is the most important thing about COVID. As long as any part of the world remains unvaccinated, it is a danger for every part of the world. So that is something which has been understood by the countries. Several countries, not only US, but several other countries have started giving booster shots to people who are considered the vulnerable group. So the US is not alone in that. But of course, India is one of the manufacturing hubs of pharmaceutical products, and India was supplying vaccines and other stuff at the very beginning of corona pandemic, but it was hit by shortage of raw material, which was in a way it was said that US was not helping with that, but at that time each and every country was looking out for themselves. But a reciprocal thing happened when India was hit by second wave, as PM Modi said yesterday in his address in the COVID summit, and world came out to help India. So now the understanding is that every part of the world, every person in the world should be vaccinated against this coronavirus, which even President Joe Biden said in his speech. So America is giving out the vaccines. They have said they will do the same. India has been doing that. Now India is producing more and has said that it will increase its production. PM Modi again said that supply line should not be interrupted. Only then India can deliver on its promises of giving to